So earlier this week, I told you about a Swedish challenge I'm doing and the tactic that I used to break a losing streak with a 5-1 away win against a team that is much stronger than we were in the league. What I didn't show you was the tactic in detail, and in this video, I'm going to share the complete breakdown of the tactic and why it works, so you'll be able to apply it for yourself. It's an overpowered 4-3-3 tactic that I don't want to really say exploit the match engine, but it plays into the Football Manager game engine in a way that allows the players that you have to play in a role that is very natural to them. It's not a complicated tactic. It gives you the freedom to play the right players, even regions, play those right players in their right roles. So I'm going to build the tactic from scratch so you can get the idea behind why the tactic works and how it works. You can follow along with the video and create the tactic for yourself in your game. Now I'm doing it this way because I want to allow those people that are playing Football Manager 2023 on the console versions, they can actually follow along with the video and recreate the tactic for themselves as well. So we'll start from the goalkeeper and then we'll make our way up to the other players in the team. So I'm going to start with a blank slate right now, and here we do have, okay, it's a 4-3-3 system like I already mentioned before. So we're going to start from scratch and then build the tactic. And starting with the goalkeeper, I do know that is a sweeper keeper on defend duty. You can go for support, but I'm going to stick with the defend duty sweeper keeper. Is that this guy is actually going to serve as a solid base. As much as he's going to venture slightly out of his box, he's not going to do anything too adventurous, so there is no instruction for him. Like I mentioned, you can opt for a super keeper on support as well, but I'm opting for the super keeper for defend in this case. Now in central defense, I'm opting for two ball playing defenders. I know in FM23 they do sort of make these ball playing mistakes where they are holding onto the ball for too long for no particular reason whatsoever, but I've noticed that for this tactic it does work well because I want these players to kind of start that counter attack from deep. That's kind of how the tactic is set up. So these ball playing defenders, as much as they're going to dwell on the ball a lot, they will find a way to take risk and hit the ball long and try to find that killer pass into an attacking player that is in position to run at defense. Now for both ball playing defenders, you're going to include instructions, and for the ball playing defender on the left hand side, I did mention for both, so they're going to have identical instructions, by the way. So you can go on to ask them to dribble more and then ask them to shoot less often. Go ahead and include the stay wider instruction for them, and then ask them also to tackle harder because they're going to be aggressive. The take more risk instruction is already selected for the ball playing defender on defend. The reason why I'm asking them to stay wider is because the team is going to push slightly higher up because we're going to be more positive, even though the defensive line is going to be fairly standard. So we're going to try to push slightly higher up when they're in possession of the ball. They're going to run into this kind of wide spaces here, and then the defensive midfielder is going to occupy that kind of blanket space and then act like a screen for the two central defenders or the two ball playing defenders that are in this role. So I've included that for the two ball playing defenders, so you can see they do have identical instructions now. So I'm moving on to the fullbacks. Now on the left hand side, you're going to have a wing back that is on attack duty. The reason why I'm opting for the attack duty role is because I've noticed that for some reason if this player that is ahead of the wing back is isolated in attack, he's not going to be able to create much by himself, so you need somebody to help him out. That's why I'm opting for this wing back on attack duty. It's also very important that you have a box-to-box midfielder beside this player. He is going to somehow create some cover for the other guy, so when the wing back is high up ahead and then the player that is ahead of him is also in attack, the box-to-box midfielder, as much as he's going to try to get forward often, he's going to remember that he's supposed to also cover the space and try to get back and defend and help the team out, stop the opposition from scoring. For the wing back on attack duty, you're going to ask this player to take more risk and shoot less often while sitting narrower, trying to close that space that is vacated by the ball playing defender that is drifting wide somehow, and then also tackle harder. We want everybody in this team to try to be more aggressive. I don't want to be kind to the AI in any way, so that's kind of how this tactic is set up. On the left hand side, you're going to have a wing back on support duty as opposed to attack. I've rarely used wing backs that are both on attack duty. It's on rare occasions that I actually do that. And the wing back here is on support duty, and he has been asked to take more risk. You're also going to instruct him to dribble more. So as much as he's playing on the support duty and being the playmaker on the wing back kind of right hand side, it's almost like an inverted playmaker on the left hand side, on the right hand side, sorry. So he's acting like a playmaker in that role. That's why you can see that the take more risk instruction is selected for him. He's going to shoot less often and then as well sit narrower, just like the wing back on attack duty that is playing on the left hand side, and he's also going to tackle harder. So you can see that aggressive, relentless pressing and winning the ball back from the opposition. It may cause us some red cards, but I don't think the AI is planning to hold back on any tackles anyway, so we can go ahead and kick each other. For the defensive midfield, I do have him play on support duty as opposed to defend, so this tactic is looking very familiar now. And we have a box-to-box midfielder here and a defensive midfielder on support duty. Now the defensive midfielder, the reason why he's not playing on defend is because I noticed that I want him to create a lot of movement. So he's going to try to get forward whenever he can. You can see that defensive midfielder, or when he's on support duty, he's going to step into the midfield and try to support attacking moves. So you need to have a lot of players that are contributing to the attack as much as possible, even though being on defensive midfield, being a defensive midfielder, is going to primarily look to defend. For this guy, you're going to ask the defensive midfielder to dribble a lot more. You can see that you're actually encouraging him to get into the opposition's box. He's also going to shoot less often and then tackle harder. The box-to-box midfielder is essentially our playmaker in the team, as well as the wing-back on support duty, and sometimes to some degree I don't think the defensive midfielder is much of a playmaker in that sense. So the box-to-box midfielder is going to be our alternative playmaker in the midfield position. So what he is going to do is going to take more risk. Very important that he takes more risk. He's also going to dribble more, a lot like the defensive midfielder, and he's going to shoot less often as well. He's also going to get forward and move into the channels whenever he sees the opportunity to do that, and as well as, you can guess it, tackle harder. Now in central midfield, you have a central midfielder that is playing on attack duty. So what this guy is going to do is essentially contribute to the striker role. He's almost playing like a striker really, because he's going to get into the box a lot more than the box-to-box midfielder. And for the central midfielder on attack duty, he's also going to be asked to take more risk, and he's dribbling a lot more, as you can see, trying to get the team as forward as possible, try to move the ball, don't allow the opposition to try and get in a kind of stationary mid block to low block position. Once you get possession of the ball, try to run at them as often as you can, and then shoot less often. Don't waste too many chances trying to just blam the ball, because it happens a lot on Football Manager 2023, I have to admit, especially if you're playing in the lower leagues. You see some random players just take random shots from anywhere. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? So just shoot less often, then move into channels as well, tackle harder. Very important that you actually try to break the legs of the opposition, because when you're angry, you need to start kicking players. Now for the right hand side, I would have gone for inverted wingers on attack duty, but what I did in this case, and what I noticed tends to work with the original FM2022 and FM2021 tactic, even down to FM20 as well, try to use the winger on attack duty in this sense. He's not going to contribute that much in defense, but what he's going to do is to pin the fullback into his own position. So if you have a winger on attack duty, forcing the fullback on this end to try and get him into stay into his own box like this, you have an advantage, because you're forcing the fullback to stay back and not come out and try to overlap against you. The problem with that is if you're caught offside, or you're caught out of position, and this winger is all the way up and he's not able to run back and defend, and then your wing back is all the way up as well, total chaos. So just try to be cautious about that. But I noticed that the wing back on attack, or the winger on attack duty, works here, and then the only instruction you're going to attach to him is to shoot less often, force him to try and calm down and not take too many random shots at goal, and also instruct him to break some legs. Now my favorite role, or second favorite role in this tactic, second to the central midfielder on attack, is the inside forward on attack duty as well. I could play him on support. Often I did play him on support, but I noticed that on an attack duty he's also very efficient. So you're going to include that the inside forward is going to sit narrower, because remember there's a wing back coming ahead of him, so he is going to actually create that space for the wing back to overlap. So he's playing on attack duty, and you can see that he's sitting narrower, and also instructed to tackle harder. Remember, very important that you break some legs here, too important in fact. So sit narrower, tackle harder, and of course don't take too many random shots that doesn't concern anybody. Shoot less often as you can. And now the last but not the least is my least favorite role in this tactic, the advanced forward. I was actually pressured into using this role because I noticed that the match engine sort of likes it, a player that runs from the deep position. But if you're playing against a team that's playing in a low block, you might want to change this guy to a false 9. But I noticed that the advanced forward sort of works because the opposition's defensive line is quite stationary oftentimes. So if you do have a player that is running from deep positions and they're running in between the lines, it sort of helps. And you can ask your advanced forward to take more risks as well. If he's in a good position to actually play a creative pass, he should go ahead and do so. Dribble more, try and encourage that run. If he can carry us, in case we're on a counter attack and then he has possession of the ball, he won't look to try and pass it to somebody quickly. He's going to try and run and then carry the team forward, and then we can get the players ahead as quickly as possible. So he's also going to shoot less often. Remember not to take any stupid random shots, and also try to break some legs. So that's that for the team, or for the player instructions. We're going to get into the team instructions now and see how the team is set up. Starting with the out of possession instruction, I do like to start from this position because what concerns me for Football Manager is conceding a lot of goals, and I realized that in this game you sort of have to set yourself up in a certain way that doesn't allow you concede so many goals, and it also gives you an advantage up front. So what I noticed in this game is to try and play with a high press. It does work. In previous Football Manager games, this was a much higher line of engagement, but you can force a high press and try to play in that manner. And then the trigger press, you need to actually force your team to press to your position as often as they can with a high press. Your players might get tired, and if they do, try to tone that down a bit and then come down to a slightly more often trigger press. Have it set up in this way, and then prevent short goalkeeper distribution as well. Try and force the team up front and force the goalkeeper to play that risky pass up in the air, and then gamble on your players winning the header. And if you do not have tall players in your team, by all means don't check this option. You can leave it blank, there's no harm there. But I do want to leave it on because that's the default in the way this tactic is set up, and as it is, that's pretty much all you need. You can turn on the step up more instructions, try and force the team to close down the press, and then force your team to, without really using a high line, you're actually playing with a sort of high line. So that's what happens when you use the standard defensive line and then the step up more instruction. But I'm going to leave that blank as it is right now, and then we're going to move over to the in transition phase. What happens in this category? Counter press is going to be selected, and then counter instruction as well. Remember, you don't always have to force it, but if you see the team being too passive when they lose possession of the ball, force the counter press and then encourage your players to try to win the ball as soon as they can. You're also going to instruct your goalkeeper to distribute the ball to the centre backs and the full backs. So he's going to try to play out of defense, not hoofing the ball too long and try to lose it in a contest mid-air. And when distributing, he can actually take short kicks. I've noticed this works. You can also roll it out, and if you're not sure that your goalkeeper is going to actually take a short kick, you can go and select roll it out, but I'm going to leave it on take short kicks right now. And then the in possession phase, this is also another integral part of why this tactic goes on to work. You want your team to actually play into possession based style of play that isn't too passive. So the goalkeeper, like I remember as I mentioned, is going to try to play out of defense. That's what the team is going to do, but they're going to play with an extremely high tempo. The passing directness is going to be slightly shorter, kind of keep it in this range where you have a shorter passing directness and then a very high tempo. So it's possession tiki-taka football, but not with so much patience. So I'm going to try to be as aggressive as possible. To walk the ball into the box instruction, you can go on to leave this blank. I do enjoy leaving it blank, but when you notice that your team is being too wasteful and they're forcing the play too much, you can turn on the walk the ball into the box instruction and then have the team play with a slightly more patient approach compared to when they were going excessively with a high tempo. Now for crosses, you can leave it on mixed crosses. I do like to play with low crosses, and if you don't have tall players, by all means stick with low crosses. That sort of works for you. And then generally the last thing you're going to include in this tactic is the mentality. Have it be a positive mentality. Often you can play with balance, but I noticed that positive sort of forces this tactic to kind of impose itself on the opposition. For set pieces, I didn't go on to include anything, so if you do have a set piece routine, you can go on to attach that, and that's basically how you can create a tactic for yourself. And if you're on console, you should actually follow these instructions step by step. It should lead you to the tactic, and in case you couldn't download it before on the PC, you can go ahead and follow on with this video and then go ahead and recreate the tactic for yourself, and I hope you get the good results that you're looking for. If you enjoy this kind of content, or if you need more tactic videos like this and tactic breakdown like this, do let me know in the comment section. I will go on to make more videos like this and help you create tactics. In case you're playing on the console version and then you don't have access to the PC version of the tactics, I could go on to create a video where we actually break down the tactic like this for you, and then you can follow along and recreate the tactic for yourself. I'll catch you with more Football Manager tactic videos like this. I'll see you in the next video.